I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If everyone would join me in a moment of silence. Thank you, Andrea. A roll call, please.
Council President Chamberlain?
Yes.
Councilor Schneider?
Yes.
Councilor Stickley?
Yes.
Councilor Jeff Steeritz?
Yes.
Councilor Griggs?
Yes.
Councilor Scott Steeritz?
Yes.
We have all members present. We have a quorum.
Entertain a motion to approve the prior meeting minutes.
I would make that motion.
Thank you, Harold.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Patrick.
Motion to approve the prior meeting's minutes moved by Councilor Stickley and seconded by Councilor Griggs. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Moving right along, next up is the names of individuals wishing to address City Council. Seeing none approaching the podium, so we'll move right along to committee reports. Tree Commission, I think we're looking to Patrick. Patrick, what do you
Yes. So we met on February 12th, and it was a brief meeting, just a reminder that Arbor Day is on April 24th, and Jim Spees talked about us holding the Tree City USA Awards ceremony next year, just reminding us to get ready for it and be prepared. And that's it.
Thank you, Patrick. No recommendations from the Tree Commission, so we'll move right along to Finance Committee, and that's Steve.
Yes. We met on Monday, February 17th, shortly after noon. Members present were myself, Shane Chamberlain, Jeff Steeritz. Other staff present, Jamie Jagger, Trish Lillick, Keith Torbett, Rick Sluter, Kevin Chittenden, Harold Stickley, and Andrea Gherkin. And I turned the meeting over originally to Jamie because she had some issues with trying to raise funds, and Keith Torbett had said that he needed more money for a fuel monitoring system. We had originally budgeted $14,000, and the system they wanted to get would cost $24,000. There was discussion about it. Everybody naturally is concerned about spending extra money, but the $14,000 wasn't going to do the job. It was just, temporary thing. So eventually, after some discussion, we agreed to okay the extra $10,000 or recommend it, the acceptance of the extra $10,000 so that this could be done in the correct manner. Other items that were brought up was raising more revenue, since the tax revenue has been going down with some factories and companies lowering their employment levels. And one of the things that was brought up, Jamie brought up, that we give a tax credit to people working outside of Waseon. A lot of communities don't give as much as we do, and so we discussed the potential for making some adjustments. And so we are going to start, I believe, in January of 2021. That's the when we want to start collecting 1% from individuals that work outside the city. Am I correct in that, Jamie?
We are allowing a 1%
1% credit.
So they would have to pay a half of.
They would have to pay a 0.5%. Okay, okay. And the reason we started that, or want to start that in 2021, is to give the people affected time to make plans and adjust accordingly, rather than do it retroactive or start in a month or two. We didn't think that was fair to them. So, other issue was brought up was dealing with WRA. They donated a check for $16,000 for new dugout tops, but we still have some issues with WRA we want to get resolved, as far as overtime, money that the city spends on lighting, field readiness, and so forth, especially when out-of-town teams are involved. I think it's important that we support our own local youth, but when it comes to tournaments that generate quite a bit of money, we would like to see Waseon get some return for it to help cover the expenses of getting the fields ready and lighting and so forth. Keith had said that he had talked with the Recreation Department. They're gonna try and revamp their schedules to eliminate some of the overtime and cut some expenses there. The softball tournament wages and benefits were $4,200. Baseball tournament wages and benefits were $7,400, but that does not include utilities and supplies. So there still, I think, is a lot of work to be done with the WRA to get an agreement on how we can best serve the community and use the funds of Waseon wisely. Keith also said he's having trouble with the hot dog cart for the pool, so that eventually we're probably looking at remodeling or redoing the snack shack to make that accessible for hot food, which is not set up for at this time. Other than that, that's pretty much what we discussed.
Thank you. Jamie, anything you'd like to add to Steve's report at all? A good summary? Okay. Right now, it is written within our agenda, the recommendation is including really 2 items, as long as everybody's comfortable with entertaining them both at the same time. If there is a motion to accept both, like that.
I would make a motion to accept the finance committees on the 2 items, which is actually the $10,000 and also just a 0.5%. Jamie, is that correct? It says 1% here, but it's.
They get a tax
gonna be
credit, but they have to pay a 0.5%.
But they're gonna have to pay the 0.5%
Yeah.
on the year 2021. That's where
Correct.
we're at. I would make that motion.
Thank you, Harold.
Second.
Thank you, Jeff.
Motion to accept the Finance Committee recommendations to approve an additional $10,000 for a new fuel monitoring system and to allow for a 1% income tax credit for residents who work outside of Waseon and pay another municipality beginning in 2021. Moved by Counselor Stickley and seconded by Counselor Jeff Steeritz. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, there's a couple things.
Sure.
I've been kind of going over the budget that we approved, which you gotta realize when you get it in December, you don't have much time to look it over and approve it, but I've been kind of going through it and different things. And that's part of council's job. And I think at that meeting, Shane, you made a remark, you said you weren't speaking for everybody, that you're gonna, and I agree with you, you were speaking for me. I mean,
Okay.
I agree 100%. But, I mean, so far I've only found a couple little things, but it's like, I guess I'll ask Tom. Like when we did interviews for the vacant seat, we did interviews 2 different times. Like you was here. We had a utility meeting. For as many years that I've been on council, very seldom does the law director come to committee meetings. I mean, once in a while, but like the utility meeting on the water rates, you came to that one. The finance meeting, I know you wanted to come to it, but you wasn't able to make it. That's just one place I was wondering why, like the interviews, we got an HR person that could have sat in on them. But we didn't used to have an HR person, but when we did interviews before other times, I just kind of wondering, is this something that you're gonna start coming to all the committee meetings, or?
Well, I'm happy to address that issue, Jeff, but I'm not sure what that has to do with the legislation or the recommendation.
Well, because it's finance.
Well, it's
It's,
fine.
I know it's in your budget for this year, but I'm just looking it over. I mean, to me, it's finance. It's, and I'm not picking on you, but I'm just,
Well,
before I'm done with the thing, I'll probably have questions for other people other times too, but.
so the request was for a discussion on a recommendation for approval of $10,000
Okay.
fuel monitor and a increase in the
Well,
income tax.
Okay,
So is there discussion on that?
okay.
I would suggest we finish
Okay,
that, and
we'll
then I'd be
finish
happy
that,
to
then
answer your
I'll,
question.
okay.
Yeah, we probably
Okay.
can venture into that
It's
question.
finance, I just thought, so we'll finish.
We can probably venture into, I think you're just looking for cost saving measures. We can probably
Right.
venture into that in new business maybe.
That'd be fine, sure.
yeah. Any other discussion about the motion?
Counselor Stickley?
Yes.
Counselor Jeff Steeritz?
Yes.
Counselor Griggs?
Yes.
Counselor Scott Steeritz?
Yes.
Counselor President Chamberlain?
Yes.
And Counselor Schneider?
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries.
Next up on the agenda is safety and code. I think that's, is it Harold?
Scott Steeritz.
Scott, there you go.
On February 20th, we had a joint meeting with the Clinton Township trustees. Harold and I were there, the mayor was there, Tom was there, all three trustees were there. Nancy Yaki, their clerk, was there, and Rick was there too, and there was a few other visitors. There was discussion as how to bill for services for the Waseon Fire Service to the townships that don't contract with us anymore. They decided not to contract with us, and so the discussion was to how much to charge them when we do go over into their area. Rick suggested using FEMA rates and the flat fee for the capital cost. Is that correct?
Mhm.
And that's about, and then we were just gonna have Tom maybe write up a contract for them to look at, and that's as far as we got. I mean, there was no recommendations for this time.
And I think email maybe Friday was a draft of a protection agreement and a letter that I think we might spend a little time on under new business. So we'll probably just take a glance at those two items once we get to new business tonight. But no recommendations from the committee meeting?
Not at this time.
All right, thanks, Scott. Any questions for Scott or Patrick or Steve from those committee reports? Good deal. Moving on to department heads. First up, Chief Sluter.
I don't have anything new, other than if there's further discussion in this meeting regarding those items we've discussed. I've been working with Tom McQuarters on getting that stuff around, and I think we've got some pretty good product wrapped up, but other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Sluter? Chief Chittenden.
February 19th, our department had our yearly department meeting, and we also handed out our awards. I just want to let council know this year our officer of the year would be our auxiliary chief, Kevin Knierim. He's been our auxiliary chief for 4 years now. He's responsible for the scheduling and organizing all the special events like basketball games, football games, parades, detail, everything like that. And outside of that, he also works part-time. He still covers road shifts for us. He's gone, I guess, a little underappreciated for a few years, so it was really, really cool to get a nomination for Kevin and get him the Officer of the Year for 2019. The second thing, coming up later on, we'll have a motion to accept our VAWA grant. That is a grant that the police department does in order to help with the cost of our victims advocates here in Fulton County. It pays for some of their salaries, some of the supplies, some of the costs of the building that they use to meet with the victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, stalking, those type of crimes against people. So.
Excellent. Officer of the Year voted on by peers or administrative staff, or how's?
They make recommendations, and then it gets forwarded to myself, and then myself and the mayor sit down and go over each of the recommendations and come up with what the officer of the year.
Well, congratulations to Officer Knierim. Any questions for Chief Chittenden?
Where is Kevin? Should've came up.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody knows Kevin, but that was while he's there.
Yeah, he works a full-time job too, so he normally wouldn't be able to get here quite this early, so. But yeah, he does an excellent job for us.
Awesome. Moving to our Director of Public Service, Mr. Torbett, what you got tonight?
We've got quite the laundry list of items that I want to bring you up to speed on.
Does it involve the hot dog cart? No?
It does not involve.
Okay, all right, good deal.
But on that note, I have been in contact with Dave Geringer out of Archbold to come over and give us some ideas on possibly expanding the snack shack, see what it's gonna cost to actually get to be able to serve hot food the right way. So we are working on that.
Thank you.
February 18th, just want to let you know that we had to open up the water line between Waseon and Delta. Delta had called and asked for us to open it up because they had a large 12-inch water break that was starting to drain their towers. Fortunately, they were able to get the water line shut off, and they were able to keep producing water, so they didn't need to utilize our system. But I wanted to thank Superintendent Two-Row for his assistance in coming out and getting that opened up in a timely manner so that if there was a problem, they would have water available to them. If you came in through the front door, you see there's a large crane out front. Our HVAC system was supposed,
There it is.
that big thing over in front of the police department.
Hardly
That's-
noticeable.
That's not the new police car, that is.
Oh, I thought it was a Durango.
But they were supposed to be putting them up today, but due to the rain, they will be starting first thing in the morning tomorrow. Should be done either late Wednesday or first part of Thursday to get those, all 7 units changed out and the new ones installed. Thursday, March 5th, we will be hosting the Wabash Cannonball Trail Committee at Rotary Park from 3 to 5. They have an annual meeting, and I thought what better place to host it is right there at Rotary where they can look outside and see the trail. So they should have about 40 to 50 people in attendance there. March 25th, we have our first pre-construction meeting coming up for the South Chute water line with Vernon Nagle. That'll be here in this office, in this room. Wood County, starting this Wednesday, is going to have a person here in council chambers from 8:30 to 11:30 for the local contractors. If they have any questions or need help with the permits, there'll be someone on site to assist them. Can't necessarily issue the permits here, but they should be able to walk them through everything and get it expedited so they can get it taken care of. That's gonna happen every Wednesday from 8:30 to 11:30 for right now, until we see how much of a need there is. We may have to add more time or cut it back to every 2 weeks if he doesn't have enough work to do while he's here. Also, last thing on my list, our EPA site inspection to the water plant is going to be the 11th, a week from Wednesday at 8:30. They're coming down to do an inspection of the plant and check out the asset management, how far we've got with our asset management survey. And that's all I've got.
It's quite the list.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So Wednesdays, 8:30 to 11:30, council chambers, zoning, residential zoning.
Yep.
And permits.
Yep.
Somebody will be here for folks
Yep.
to meet. Awesome. Good deal. Thank you. Any questions for?
It's only residential, not commercial.
Well, I'm sure he can answer commercial issues as well, but it's mainly for the residential.
Residential. And the 11th at the water treatment plant is Bowling Green EPA coming to inspect?
Yes.
Okay.
When was the Wabash Trails meeting?
Be this Thursday, the 5th, from 3 to 5.
Is anybody welcome, or?
I believe so.
Yeah. Anything else for Keith?
One more quick question. Is that an annual inspection of EPA?
I don't know if it's an annual inspection, but
Just curious. It's
they come out periodically. This is the first one I've had to deal with, so.
Okay, fair
Oh, and I
enough.
also forgot, the water reclamation plant was issued their 5-year license. It just got issued February 28th, so we're good to go for the next 5 years.
Nice. That's great news. Any other questions for Keith? All right, moving on to our Director of Finance. Jamie, what you got?
Not as much as Keith. I provided you with our month-end reports, including the income tax revenue for the first 2 months of the year. Overall, it looks like we're a little bit ahead of last year. We were just down for the month of February compared to last year, so still moving in the right direction. I hope that continues. And that's all I have tonight.
I didn't get a chance to look at it. February, what we're down, what was the percentage
So
as compared to last year?
I don't have the percentage. We were
Okay.
down $20,000.
Gotcha.
Overall, we're up 0.26%, so just a little bit.
We're up then. We don't need to go any further than that. Tom, I know you're often forgotten, but not today, okay?
Oh, thank you,
Yeah,
Shane.
no
I
problem.
appreciate it.
Legal, let's go.
Show me the love, right?
Yeah.
Just a couple of things. First, I call council's attention to ordinance 2020-3. That's the legislation for the water increase, and I wasn't at council the whole, but my understanding was that council wanted to have 3 straight reads on that. So we built in an effective date of June 1st, which would be essentially 30 days, a little bit more after the effective date, the last reading coming in early April. So council's free to alter that if it wants, but I was just acting on the understanding that it was gonna be 3 reads.
Thank you.
And the increase, Jamie provided the information for the increase. I guess second thing, I guess we're gonna talk about a new business, the drafts for the protection agreement and a letter to the township trustees. Worked on that after attending the meeting with Rick and the mayor and the safety and code folks. And then last thing, just consistent with Patrick's report on tree commission, the Trails Committee for the Rotary Club met this past week, and I think we're starting to talk about a transition date to get that turned over to the city, but I think the committee and I think Rotary will be on board with this. We haven't really passed it through the trustees yet or the directors, but I think we want to address that final issue of making sure the trails, the surfaces are more conducive to year-round use as opposed to being sidelined sometimes when we have heavy rains. So we really want to address that issue of the surface condition, and I think we're committed to that. But I think the turnover process is, and we'll be reaching out to the city to make sure that's smooth and we can have a long-term maintenance plan and that sort of thing. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Tom. At this point, I think we're prepared to move into a first reading of legislation. Let's see, ordinance 2020-3, amend section 933.02 water rate schedule effective June 1 of 2020.
I would make that motion there.
Thanks, Harold.
Potential mayor, set in mayor.
Jeez.
Wow.
Oh, boy. You guys get a second. Thanks, Steve.
Motion to place ordinance 2020-3 on first reading, moved by Counselor Stickley and seconded by Counselor Schneider. Is there any discussion? Counselor Stickley?
Yes.
Counselor Schneider?
Yes.
Council President Chamberlain?
Yes.
Counselor Jeff Stewart?
Yes.
Counselor Griggs?
Yes.
Counselor Scott Stewart?
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries.
And again, I think it's the right thing to do to let that go through 3 readings and take effect 30 days after the 3rd reading, so.
I agree, because I think if anybody in the city wants to review this and need to come to us, this will give them an opportunity.
For sure. Moving along to resolution 2020-3, amend ordinance 2019-8, annual appropriation ordinance by authorizing the director of finance to increase or decrease certain line account appropriations within the various funds listed within the year of 2020.
I would make that motion also.
Thank you, Harold. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Jeff.
Motion to place resolution 2020-3 on final reading, moved by Counselor Stickley and seconded by Counselor Jeff Stewart. Is there any discussion? Counselor Stickley?
Yes.
Counselor Jeff Stewart?
Yes.
Counselor Griggs?
Yes.
Counselor Scott Stewart?
Yes.
Council President Chamberlain?
Yes.
Counselor Schneider?
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries.
Thanks, members. No second or third reading. Now we're moving along right into new business. First item to be considered is entertain a motion to accept the VAWA grant in the amount of $59,989.34.
Can you, no, go ahead. Refresh my memory what that is.
So we do have a victim advocate that works within the city, and that funds that person's.
Correct, yeah, that helps fund some of the salary for the therapist, some of the supplies, office supplies, utilities on the building, and I believe insurance on the building as well.
I'll make that motion to accept the VAWA grant.
Thanks, Jeff. Second?
I'll second.
Patrick?
Motion to accept the VAWA grant in the amount of $59,989.04, moved by Counselor Jeff Stewart and seconded by Counselor Griggs. Is there any discussion? Counselor Jeff Stewart?
Yes.
Counselor Griggs?
Yes.
Counselor Scott Stewart?
Yes.
Council President Chamberlain?
Yes.
Counselor Schneider?
Yes.
And Counselor Stickley?
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries.
Still operating under new business. I was trying to think of something to talk about with a new business, and I thought why not recognize some new members to our community? Warrior Wings, as we all know, the much anticipated opening of a new restaurant within the city, taking customers, and then also a small little doctor's office known as Activate is located in behind Fitness. So just want to take a second to welcome those folks to our community. Next up on new business, any other new business? Yeah, Jeff.
Back to my
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
We were in finance, I just kind of thought, we're asking for people to give them more money, and our job's to control the money, and so that's why I brought it up under finance committee report, but, no, I was just wondering why I got interviews both times you were there, and nothing against you, Tom, it's just, then the utility meeting, when we were going over the water rates with the drafts, you were there, and I think, I had heard that the finance committee meeting that we had, you was gonna try to get to that one, you couldn't make it to that. I just didn't know what the reasoning are. After all these years I've been in council, usually the law director doesn't come to most committee meetings. I'm not saying they don't come once in a while, but I didn't know what the reasoning was, why, you said it on the interviews and.
Well, I think you're right, Jeff. I mean, typically, we've tried to be cost conscious in terms of the work we do for the city. And the only times that we would normally have come to committee meetings is when we've been asked to, typically the only times when we've been asked to, or if there's legislation pending with the particular matter. So with respect to the utility committee meeting, my understanding was that there was gonna be legislation that was gonna be forthcoming. And it's proven helpful through the years to be present when there might be questions about what particular statute or ordinance needs to be revised. With respect to the interviews, I mean, I've probably sat through 3 or 4 versions of that, and I think the reasoning has been, at least as far as I understood, and I would endorse, is that their questions arise as to particular issues that may come before council, and so it's helpful to be there for that, not necessarily for all the interviews, but through the process. So, and again, it's generally, I mean, my view has always been, if it's to suggest that it would be helpful for me to be there, or for somebody to be there, if there's legislation or legal issues that arise.
Okay, I always thought it was, the committees meet, they discuss something, they bring a recommendation back to the council votes on it to accept it or not accept it, and then it's handed over to you. That's why I always thought it was, 95% of the time.
Well, there have been, I mean, take, for example, the slow-moving vehicle discussion. That was a situation where I think explanations were helpful and needed to explain what the state statutes were, how it would interface with what the city wanted to do. And it wouldn't have made sense for council, I don't think, to just make a decision and then for me to have to come back and indicate, well, you really gotta go a different direction, or, but historically, I mean, we've been involved in those meetings where there are legislative issues. But I'm happy to be, we're happy to be sensitive to your budgetary concerns. If you don't want us involved, that's certainly your guys' decision and the mayor's decision. If you want us present.
Well, I was just kind of curious, because like I said, 17 years, very seldom. One like the slow-moving vehicle, yeah, I could understand. One like raising the water rates, I don't know, I'd have to pull the minutes up 7 years ago if he was there for that one. Well, no, it was more than that, because it would have been 9 years ago probably, because that was, because I was always under the impression, like I said, committee brings it back to council approves or disapproves, and then it's passed over to you. So that's my only was concerned, and the reason I brought it up under the finance part was, we're asking citizens who we work for to get more money, and part of our job is to watch our money. So that's all I was doing, is watching our money.
So no, I appreciate that. Again, we're willing to work with however we can be of assistance. I don't think historically the last several meetings that you're referring to are different than what we did in the past, but I'm certainly, again, want to be sensitive to your guys' concerns on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Never hurts to be, with our revenue consistently going down, unfortunately. I think we have to be careful of our spending, so. Anything else under new business from council members?
One thing.
Yeah, Harold.
Question to Tom. The letter's going to York Township for the fireman situation. Are they going to Pike and Chesterfield, or?
Well, so, yes, they would be. What I presented to you guys, or had sent to you guys, was the draft agreement and then a template letter for York, which would be used to send to the other 2 townships. I think what the Safety and Code Committee had discussed with the trustees was that upon council's approval of it, informal approval of it,
Yeah.
that we would then send it to the trustees for their review.
Okay,
And if, once they were to be, if they are okay with the language, then I would put together a final draft and sign the letters and send those off.
But it will end up going farther than just York, and
Yes, it would go to all 3. I just provided the York as an example.
just a question.
Yep.
No
York,
problem.
Pike, and
Thank
what was
you.
the other?
Chesterfield.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great segue, Harold. That's where I wanted to venture next under new business.
Oh, I'm
is-
sorry.
That's great. No, thank you. Almost like we had a plan that way. I think it was forwarded to all council members, the draft of the fire and emergency protection agreement, as well as a template letter that we're reviewing that would eventually be sent to York, Pike, and Chesterfield. What my hope was tonight, and speaking with Tom, I think his is as well, and probably Chief's, is to get council's blessing, maybe even approval of the drafts that we have in front of us. I took time to review the drafts. I think they're well-written and provides for very clear path, and is totally within those townships to choose what path they venture down. So I guess I would entertain any dialogue that we would like to have in reference to these 2 drafts. If I don't hear any dialogue, I might ask that we hear a motion accepting the drafts.
I make a motion to accept the draft. I thought it was good.
And Steve, your motion would be to accept the protection agreement draft as well as the template letter that would be sent out to the 3
Yes.
townships? Thank
Yes.
you.
Are you gonna send it, you're gonna send it to the Clinton Township though first before we?
Yes.
This just draft, okay.
Yes. Right.
We're approving the draft tonight.
Yeah.
So it can be moved on to other folks for their consideration.
They have a meeting Thursday.
Thank you. And it is a little bit, and we have a motion, but it is a little time sensitive because we have folks working and liability is a concern, isn't it, Chief?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we have a,
Second that motion.
thank you, Harold.
Motion to accept the draft of the fire protection agreement and letter moved by Counselor Schneider and seconded by Counselor Stickley. Is there any discussion?
I just have one. Chief Sluter, did you look at the draft?
Yes.
Did you have a good opinion of the draft?
It kind of points out where we are and where they just need to make a decision on what we're gonna do, and that way we have a clear understanding from them.
Because this is a very important thing that we need to safeguard our men and women of the fire department, as well as our fire department, so that's it.
Any further discussion? Counselor Schneider?
Yes.
Counselor Stickley?
Yes.
Counselor Jeff Stewart?
Yes.
Counselor Griggs?
Yes.
Counselor Scott Stewart?
Yes.
Council President Chamberlain?
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries.
The last thing I have under new business tonight, I distributed to members a document out of my archives from June of 2019. It's back in June of 2019, we authorized our law director to put together some thoughts in reference to moving recreational programming under the umbrella of Park Board. And I wanted to distribute this again because Patrick is new and has not seen this document, and to maybe some members as a refresher. But as a plan, I sort of plan on calling a committee of the whole meeting probably in the not so distant future where we can have time to actually talk about this document and maybe look at the pros and cons to moving recreational programming under the Park Board umbrella. So just wanted to distribute this and let you guys know, probably a committee of the whole meeting. I might be calling a special committee of the whole meeting so we can have good dialogue about it later on. Okay? Thank you. Let's see. That is all I have for new business. Any other new business, either from council
Can we get
members?
our computer things taken care of? Kyle, did Kyle take care of that?
Yes.
Okay.
We had an issue Friday where some suspect emails got sent out. Kyle determined it did not come from here. It looks like it was just someone got a hold of Trudy's email list and started sending out spoof emails off of her mailing list, so. But we have it corrected, and we've changed passwords and encryptions, and hopefully everything's up and running properly now.
If you need any advice, Harold is available for cybersecurity. Right, Harold?
You betcha, anytime, I will gladly.
Harold will be the chair of our future
24/7.
IT committee.
5 pound sledge will work real
Okay,
good.
I'm sure Kyle will be good to know that.
Yeah. Any other new business, guys? All right. Entertain a motion to pay the bills.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
And Harold, thanks.
Motion to approve and pay the bills is presented, moved by Counselor Schneider and seconded by Counselor Stickley. Is there any discussion? Counselor Schneider?
Yes.
Counselor Stickley?
Yes.
Council President Chamberlain?
Yes.
Counselor Scott Stieretz?
Yes.
Counselor Griggs?
Yes.
Counselor Jeff Stieretz?
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries.
And a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Harold
I'll second.
and Patrick.
Motion to adjourn, moved by Counselor Stickley and seconded by Counselor Griggs. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.